The grand chamber was the largest room Kim Yuna had ever seen. It floated in space, a massive sphere of crystal and metal, orbiting a dead world called Aethon Prime. Inside, representatives from 847 species sat in rows that curved upward like the inside of a bowl. Every seat was filled. Every eye was watching her. She stood alone on the speaking platform at the center. The platform was small, barely 3 meters wide. This was intentional. The council wanted petitioners to feel small, to feel alone, to understand their place. Kim Yuna had spent 14 years preparing for this moment. She had learned 6 alien languages. She had studied the history and customs of every major council species. She had written the petition herself, 120 pages arguing why humanity deserved equal voting rights. 60 years after first contact, Earth was still classified as a developing world. Humans could trade in council space, but they could not vote. They could visit other worlds, but they could not settle anywhere good. They paid taxes to the council, but received nothing in return. Today, that would change, or so she had believed. High Arbiter Velen sat on a raised throne at the highest point of the chamber. He was old, even by the standards of his species, which lived for 1,000 years. His skin was gray and covered in fine scales. His eyes were completely black, without whites or pupils. When he spoke, his voice echoed through the chamber like thunder in a cave. "The representative from Earth may speak," Velen said. His tone made it clear he was not interested in listening. Yuna activated her translator and began. "Honored Council, I come before you today to formally request. The interruption came from the lower seats. Ambassador Krell of the Torak Empire stood up without permission. He was tall and thin, with 4 arms and a face like a skull stretched over too much bone. "The humans are requesting again. How many times now?" Laughter rippled through the chamber. Not polite laughter, cruel laughter. Yuna kept her face calm. "Ambassador Krell, I have the floor. The floor is wasted on you," Krell said. He walked down toward the speaking platform, and the guards did nothing to stop him. 60 years humanity has been part of our great civilization. 60 years. And what have you accomplished? Nothing. You build nothing of value. You create nothing of worth. You are mold that learned to build rockets. More laughter. Louder this time. Krell reached the edge of her platform and looked down at her. He was 2 meters tall. She was not. "Let me show the council what humanity truly is," he said. He waved his hand, and images appeared in the air above the chamber. Old images, footage of Earth's first space disasters, rockets exploding, shuttles burning, astronauts dying. The footage was edited to look worse than it was, cut together to make humans look stupid and careless. The chamber laughed again. Some species were pointing at the images and making jokes in languages Yuna did not understand. But she understood the tone. She understood the contempt. High Arbiter Velen raised one hand, and the laughter slowly died. "The council has already voted on Earth's petition," he said. "The result is as follows." Yuna felt her stomach turn cold. They had voted before she even spoke. The petition, the years of preparation, the journey across the galaxy, it was all theater. They had never intended to say yes. "Earth's petition for equal voting rights is denied," Velen announced. "Furthermore, the Council has decided that additional measures are necessary to manage human expansion." He listed them one by one. Trade tariffs on human goods would increase by 400%. Human ships would be restricted to a single designated trade lane through Council space. Humans would be banned from settling any world within 500 light-years of Council territory, and all existing human colonies in that zone would have 10 years to relocate. 10 years to move millions of people. It was impossible. It was designed to be impossible. "The reasoning is simple," Velen continued. "Humans breed too quickly. Your population doubles every century. If left unchecked, you will spread through the galaxy like a disease. The Council has a responsibility to protect civilized space from contamination." Contamination. He called humanity a contamination. The chamber was silent now, not from shock, but from satisfaction. They had wanted this. They had all wanted this. Trade Minister Solis, who controlled the economic bloc that would profit most from the new tariffs, smiled in her seat. Warlord Geth, whose military had been concerned about human expansion for decades, nodded in approval. They had planned this together. Yuna could see it now. The petition was never going to succeed. It was a trap to justify crushing humanity further. "Does the representative from Earth have a response?" Velon asked. His tone was mocking. He expected her to cry, to beg, to give them another reason to laugh. Kim Yuna looked up at him. Her face showed nothing. Her voice was steady. "Earth will take this under advisement," she said. She turned and walked off the platform. Behind her, the laughter started again, louder than before. Someone shouted something about humans knowing their place. Someone else made a joke about monkeys in suits. She did not look back. She walked through the doors, down the long corridor, and into the shuttle bay where Earth's diplomatic ship waited. Her hands were shaking, but not from fear, from anger. 60 years of insults, 60 years of being treated like animals. And now this. The shuttle door opened, and Admiral Park Tae-soo was waiting inside. He was 58 years old, with gray hair cut short, and a face that looked like it had been carved from stone. He was the Supreme Commander of Earth's United Defense Fleet, and he had not come to the Council Station officially. No one knew he was here except Yuna and 3 others. He looked at her face and asked one question. "How bad?" "Bad enough," she said. He nodded slowly. Then he pulled out a small communication device and typed a single word. He showed it to her before sending. The word was Prometheus. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now," Admiral Park said, "we stop pretending." The shuttle launched from the station and joined the diplomatic ship waiting outside. As they pulled away, Yuna looked back at the Grand Chamber through the viewport. All those species, all those representatives, all that power, and they had used it to humiliate a world that only wanted to be treated fairly. They would learn, she thought. They would all learn what humanity really was. The ship turned toward Earth, and the stars stretched into lines as they jumped to faster than light speed. Behind them, the Council continued celebrating their victory. They did not know that they had just made the worst mistake in galactic history. They did not know that humanity had been waiting for this, preparing for this, for 60 very long years. For 30 days after the Council's decision, humanity went quiet. The change happened so slowly that no one noticed at first. Human merchant ships stopped arriving at trading posts. Human diplomats packed their bags and returned to Earth. Human workers on alien worlds finished their contracts and did not renew them. Human tourists canceled their trips. The Council noticed, but they did not worry. They assumed humans were sulking, licking their wounds. They laughed about it in their private meetings. The monkeys had finally learned their place. They were wrong. Deep beneath the mountains of Korea, in a bunker that officially did not exist, Admiral Park Tae-soo stood before a room of the most powerful people on Earth. The Joint Chiefs of every nation sat around a curved table, their faces lit by the blue glow of holographic displays. President Moon Soo-min sat at the head, her expression calm but her eyes sharp. "Report," she said. Park Tae-soo activated the main display. A map of the galaxy appeared, with Earth marked in blue and Council space marked in red. "The Council has given us 10 years to relocate our colonies from their restricted zone. 7 million people on 12 worlds. They know we cannot do it. They want us to fail so they can use force to remove us. Then we accelerate the timeline," Director Lee Eunbi said from the corner. She was the head of Earth's intelligence division, a woman who knew secrets that could bring down governments. "We do not have 10 years anyway. Our sources inside the Council say they are already discussing military action. Some of them want to make an example of us." General Choi Hyun slammed his fist on the table. "Let them try. Let them see what human soldiers can do." "That is exactly what they expect," Admiral Park said. "They have studied our military capabilities. They know every ship in our fleet, every base on our worlds, every weapon in our inventory." He paused. "Or they think they do." He changed the display. The blue dots representing human military assets suddenly multiplied. Hidden shipyards and asteroid belts, secret bases in the outer regions of the solar system, training facilities on moons that the Council had never bothered to scan. Project Prometheus, Park Tae-soo said. For 60 years, while we smiled and bowed and accepted their insults, we were building. Every trade deal they forced us into, we used to buy materials. Every technology they shared with us, we improved in secret. Every young man and woman who wanted to serve their species, we trained in conditions no alien could survive. The room was silent. Even the Joint Chiefs, who knew about Prometheus, had not seen the full scale of it until now. Our official fleet is 120 ships, Park continued. Our real fleet is over 2,000. We have weapons that the Council cannot detect, shields that their sensors cannot penetrate, and soldiers who have been preparing for this moment their entire lives. President Moon studied the display for a long moment. And if we use this fleet, what happens? We win one battle, maybe two. Then the entire Council turns against us. 800 species, millions of ships. We cannot fight them all. We will not have to. Director Lee said. She stepped forward and activated her own display. For 60 years, my agents have been everywhere. Every Council world, every government, every military command. We know their secrets, all of them. She showed them a sample. Financial records proving that Trade Minister Solis had been stealing from her own people. Military communications showing that Warlord Geth had massacred civilians on 3 worlds and blamed it on pirates. Medical reports proving that High Arbiter Velen had been taking illegal life extension treatments harvested from unwilling donors. The Council is not united, Lee Umbi continued. They pretend to be, but underneath, they hate each other. They compete for power, for resources, for territory, and there are hundreds of species who were treated the same way we were. Species who were denied membership, who were laughed at, who were exploited. We have been talking to them, quietly, for decades. General Choi Hyun grinned. It was not a friendly grin. We are not going to fight the Council alone. We are going to break it apart and build something better. President Moon looked around the table. Every face showed the same expression. Determination, anger, and something else. Hope. For the first time in 60 years, humanity had hope. What is the plan? She asked. Admiral Park Tae-soo explained it step by step. It would begin with silence, complete withdrawal from Council space. Every human, everywhere, returning home or moving to hidden locations. The Council would think humans were retreating in fear. Then, when the moment was right, they would strike everywhere at once. Military targets only, no civilians. They would show the galaxy that humanity had power, but also that humanity had honor. At the same time, Director Lee's intelligence would be released to every world. Every secret, every lie, every crime committed by Council leaders, the propaganda that painted humans as primitive animals, would collapse when the galaxy saw the truth about who the real monsters were. Finally, they would reach out to their allies, the species who had suffered like humanity, the worlds who wanted freedom from Council tyranny. Together, they would build something new. And if it fails? President Moon asked. If they unite against us anyway, then we die fighting. General Choi said. But we die free. We die standing up. Our children will not grow up being called contamination by creatures who are not fit to clean our boots. The vote was held. It was unanimous. 3 days later, Kim Yuna finished writing the treaty withdrawal document. She had spent hours making it perfect. In the end, she had reduced it to a single page. The language was formal and legal, but the final line was not. It read, "Humanity thanks the Council for 60 years of education. Class is dismissed." She transmitted it to Admiral Park, who approved it with a single word. Perfect. The document would be delivered at exactly the right moment. Not yet. First, there was work to do. Across human space, ships began moving in the darkness between stars. Soldiers checked their weapons and said goodbye to their families. Pilots ran final simulations. Engineers made last adjustments to systems that would decide the fate of billions. On Earth, people went about their normal lives. They did not know what was coming. They only knew that something had changed. The news talked about the council's insults. And for the first time, the response was not shame. It was anger. It was pride. It was a quiet certainty that humanity would not accept this treatment forever. In her office, Director Lee Eun-bi received a message from her network. All assets were in position. All targets were identified. All systems were ready. She typed her response. Begin final countdown. The silent month was almost over. And when it ended, the galaxy would never be the same. At exactly midnight Earth Standard Time, the galaxy changed forever. Admiral Park Tae-soo stood on the bridge of the carrier Silent Thunder, watching the darkness of space through the main viewport. Somewhere ahead, invisible in the black, was the Torak Empire's forward command base. This was the heart of Ambassador Krell's military power. The same Krell who had called humanity mold. The same Krell who had laughed loudest in the Grand Chamber. All ships report ready, his communications officer said. Park nodded. Around him, 11 other carriers waited in perfect silence. Their stealth systems were active, bending light and sensor waves around their hulls. To the Torak base, space appeared empty, normal. Safe. Decloak on my mark, Park said. His voice was calm. He had waited 60 years for this moment. He could wait a few more seconds. 3, 2, 1, mark. 12 human carriers appeared from nothing, their hulls shimmering into existence like ghosts becoming solid. The Torak sensors screamed warnings, but it was too late. The carriers were already inside their defensive perimeter. Park watched the Torak scramble to respond. Ships launched from the base in chaos. Weapons powered up too slowly. Communications channels filled with panicked voices. All batteries, Park said. The battle lasted 18 minutes. When it was over, the Torak forward command base was dark and drifting. 92 warships destroyed or disabled. 0 human casualties. The carriers had not even needed to use their main weapons. Park opened a channel to the disabled base. This is Admiral Park Tae-soo of Earth's United Defense Fleet. Ambassador Krell. Are you receiving? Silence. Then a voice, shaking with rage. You primitive animals. You have no idea what you have done. The Council will destroy you. They will burn your world to ash. The Council, Park said slowly, will be busy with other problems. I suggest you focus on keeping your crew alive until rescue arrives. If rescue arrives. He cut the channel. Across the galaxy, the same scene repeated itself. Captain Han Dae-ho led his stealth squadron through the heart of Council space, hunting for a specific target. The primary communication array, a massive station that connected every Council world in real time. Without it, the Council could not coordinate, could not respond quickly, could not even know what was happening. Han was young. Only 32. But he had trained for this mission since he was 18. His ship, the Silent Dawn, was the fastest and quietest vessel humanity had ever built. His crew was the best. They had practiced this attack hundreds of times in simulation. Now it was real. Target in range, his sensor officer reported. The communication array was enormous, bristling with antennae and transmitter dishes. Hundreds of civilian ships floated nearby. Using the station for routine messages, Han had strict orders. No civilian casualties. Not one. Mark all civilian vessels and lock them out of our firing solutions, he ordered. We hit military systems only. Nothing else. It took precision that would have been impossible for any other navy. Human targeting computers, built in secret, guided. Every shot. Energy beams sliced through military transmitters while leaving civilian equipment untouched. In 4 minutes, the array went silent. The galaxy's fastest communication network was dead. Han opened a broadcast channel. Attention all vessels. This communication station has been disabled by forces of Earth. Civilian ships are not targets. Repeat, civilian ships are not targets. Military vessels will be engaged if they approach. Return to your homeworlds and wait for further information. On the Council Capital world, Director Lee Eun-bi's masterpiece activated. Every screen, every display, every communication device, suddenly showed the same thing. The archive. 60 years of secrets, financial crimes, military atrocities, political corruption, recordings of council leaders saying what they really thought about the species they ruled, footage of massacres that had been blamed on others, documents proving that the council had deliberately kept younger species poor and weak to maintain control. The effect was immediate. On 100 worlds, people watched in shock as their leaders were exposed. Protests began within hours. Governments that had seemed stable for centuries suddenly faced questions they could not answer. And mixed with the secrets was a message from humanity. Simple, direct, true. For 60 years, we were told we were nothing. We were told we were animals. We were told we were contamination. We accepted it because we had no choice. Now we have a choice, and we choose to be free. We choose to stand up. We choose to show the galaxy what humanity really is. Not conquerors, not destroyers, but people who will never be slaves, people who will never bow to tyrants, people who will never again accept being treated as less than what we are. To every species that has suffered as we suffered, you are not alone. The chains are breaking. Join us, and we will build something better together. While space battles raged and secrets spread, General Choi Hyun executed the final phase, Operation Homecoming. For decades, millions of humans had been trapped on alien worlds. Some were workers bound by unfair contracts. Some were colonists cut off by blockades. Some were prisoners held on false charges. The Council had used them as hostages, knowing that Earth would not act as long as human lives were at risk. Tonight, that ended. 300 military transports jumped into alien space simultaneously. They carried no weapons. Only soldiers trained in extraction operations. They landed on planets, docked with stations, and walked into prisons. Wherever humans were held, the transports appeared. The aliens could not stop them. Their communications were down. Their military was in chaos. They could only watch as humans walked free. On the prison moon of Varex, Choi Hyun personally led the extraction team. 2,000 humans had been held there for crimes like disrespecting a council official or spreading human culture without permission. They had been tortured, starved, forgotten. When Choi Hyun opened the cell doors, many prisoners did not believe it was real. Some cried, some could not walk, and had to be carried. One old man grabbed Choi's arm and asked, "Is it true? Are we really going home?" Choi Hyun, who had not cried since he was a child, felt his eyes burn. "Yes," he said, "it is true. Earth sent us, and we are never leaving anyone behind again." By morning Earth time, it was done. The Torak military was crippled. The Council communication network was destroyed. Every secret was exposed. Every human was free. On Earth, Kim Yuna transmitted the treaty withdrawal document to every Council world simultaneously, the same document she had written with such care. The same final line that she had spent hours perfecting. Humanity thanks the Council for 60 years of education. Class is dismissed. High Arbiter Velen received the message in his private chambers. He read it 3 times, unable to believe what was happening. Around him, advisors shouted about responses and counterattacks and emergency measures, but Velen understood something they did not. This was not an attack. This was a statement. Humanity had shown that they could have destroyed the Council completely. They had the power, they had the opportunity. Instead, they had chosen precision. Military targets only. No massacres, no revenge killings. They had freed their people, broken the Council's systems, and walked away. They were not trying to conquer. They were trying to prove something, and they had proved it. Velen looked at the message again. Class is dismissed. For the first time in 500 years, he felt afraid. 3 months after humanity withdrew from the Council, the galaxy was falling apart. Kim Yuna sat in her office on Earth, reading reports from across the stars. Every day brought news of another crisis, another government falling, another world demanding answers, another species realizing that everything they had believed was a lie. The archive had done its work well. Secrets that had been buried for centuries were now public knowledge. Leaders who had seemed honest were exposed as thieves. Heroes were revealed as murderers. The Council's image of unity and justice had crumbled into dust. On Ambassador Krell's homeworld, revolution had begun within a week of the archive's release. His people had trusted the Torak government for generations. Now they knew the truth. Their leaders had been stealing from them, sending their children to die in wars that served no purpose except profit. And through it all, they had blamed other species for their problems. Krell himself was hiding. His palace had been burned. His family had fled. The same ambassador who had laughed at humans in the Grand Chamber was now hunted by his own people. Trade Minister Solis did not survive long enough to hide. Her own subordinates killed her 3 weeks after the archive exposed her crimes. She had been taking money meant for food programs on developing worlds. Millions had starved so she could buy luxury ships and rare art. Her death was not pretty, and Yuna did not feel sorry for her. But the greatest irony was the economic collapse. For 60 years, the Council had used humans as cheap labor. Humans built their power plants. Humans designed their agricultural systems. Humans maintained their medical technology. The Council species had been too proud to learn these skills themselves. Why bother when humans would do it for less? Now the humans were gone, and all that technology was starting to fail. Director Lee Eun-bi had planted the seeds decades ago. Every system built by humans had a hidden dependency, a software requirement, a maintenance protocol. Small things that no one noticed until they mattered. Now they mattered. Power grids failed on a dozen worlds. Crop yields dropped by 40% when agricultural computers could not self-repair. Medical devices in hospitals stopped working, and alien doctors did not know how to fix them. The Council had thought humans were primitive. They had never realized how much they depended on human engineering, how much they had taken for granted. Yuna felt no joy in their suffering. She was not cruel, but she would not apologize either. Humanity had offered cooperation for 60 years. They had been answered with contempt. This was the result. Not everyone in the Council accepted defeat. Warlord Geth was a proud creature who had built his reputation on military conquest. His fleet had never lost a battle. His soldiers had never retreated. The idea that humans could defeat him was impossible to accept. He assembled the largest armada in Council history. 800 warships from 12 species. The finest technology the Council could offer. He announced his intentions publicly. He would travel to human space, destroy Earth's fleet, and burn their homeworld to ash. Then, the other species would understand that defying the Council meant death. Admiral Park Tae-soo received the news calmly. He had expected this. In a way, he had planned for it. Let him come, Park told his commanders. Let him bring everyone who wants to watch. The more witnesses, the better. The two fleets met at the edge of human space, near a small red star that humans had named Hope. Geth's armada spread across thousands of kilometers, a wall of metal and weapons that seemed impossible to defeat. Park Tae-soo arrived with 50 ships. Geth laughed when he saw the human force. He opened a communication channel and broadcast it to every ship in both fleets. 50 ships, Geth said. Is this a joke? Is this humanity's last defense? Surrender now, and I will make your deaths quick. Park Tae-soo's image appeared on screens across the galaxy. He was calm, almost bored. Warlord Geth, he said. Before you continue, I suggest you look up. Geth frowned. He ordered his sensors to scan above his fleet. The sky filled with ships. 2,000 human warships decloaked simultaneously. They had been waiting, silent and invisible, positioned perfectly around Geth's armada. But that was not all. Among the human ships were vessels from 40 other species. Ships that the Council had never seen before. Ships from worlds that had been denied membership. Ships from species that had been called primitive, worthless, contaminated. Humanity's allies. The coalition they had built in secret over 60 years of friendship and shared suffering. Geth stared at the display. His officers were shouting. His fleet was completely surrounded. You have two choices, Park said. Surrender now, or watch your ships burn. There will be no negotiation. There will be no escape. Choose quickly. My finger is on the button. For a long moment, nothing happened. Geth's face twisted with rage. He had never surrendered. He had never failed. His entire identity was built on victory, but he was not stupid. He could see the numbers. He could see the positioning. If he fought, his entire fleet would be destroyed in minutes. 800 ships would become 800 graves. You think this changes anything? Geth hissed. The Council will send more ships. They will never stop until the Council is finished. Park interrupted. Look at your allies, Warlord. Look at their faces. Geth turned to his display. The ships from other Council species were not preparing to fight. They were backing away, retreating, abandoning him. The commanders had seen the numbers. They had seen humanity's hidden strength, and they had made their choice. This was not their war anymore. It seems you are alone, Park said. Choose now, surrender, or die. The surrender took 4 hours. General Choi Hyun led the boarding team onto Geth's flagship personally. He accepted the warlord's surrender in front of his entire crew, while cameras broadcast every moment to the galaxy. Captain Han Dae-ho, now promoted after his success at the communication array, captured additional footage and transmitted it on every frequency. The message was clear. The Council's greatest military commander had been defeated without a single human casualty. 800 ships captured or surrendered. The wall that was supposed to destroy Earth had become a demonstration of human power. That night, Kim Yuna received thousands of messages from Council worlds. Not threats, not insults. Requests. Requests for alliance. Requests for trade. Requests for help. The same species that had laughed at her in the Grand Chamber were now begging for attention. She saved every message. She read each one carefully, and she responded to none. Let them wait, she thought. As they made us wait, in her heart, she knew they would eventually build relationships with these worlds. Humanity was not seeking revenge. They were seeking respect. And respect would come with time. But tonight, she would let them feel what humanity had felt for 60 years. The silence, the uncertainty, the fear that no one was listening. Tomorrow, the work of building something better would continue. But tonight, Kim Yuna allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. The galaxy had laughed at Earth. Now Earth was laughing back. 2 years had passed since humanity left the Council. 2 years of building. 2 years of healing. 2 years of becoming something new. The station was called First Light. It floated in human space, orbiting a planet that had once been barren rock. Now that planet was being terraformed, its surface slowly turning green as human technology brought it to life. The station itself was massive, larger than any structure the Council had ever built. And it had been built by many hands. Humans had designed it, but they had not built it alone. Engineers from 47 species had worked side by side, learning from each other, creating something that belonged to all of them equally. The Human Alliance, they called it, a new organization for a new age. Admiral Park Tae-soo walked through the station's corridors, nodding at the people he passed. Human faces, alien faces, young officers in uniforms that mixed styles from a dozen worlds. 2 years ago, most of these species had never met. Now they trained together, lived together, built futures together. Park had retired from active command 6 months ago. His work was done. The fleet was strong. The alliance was stable. It was time for younger leaders to take charge, but he had come to First Light for this day. He would not miss it. The main assembly hall was already filling when he arrived. Thousands of delegates from every member world sat in curved rows, just like the Grand Chamber on Aethon Prime. But this hall was different. There was no throne at the top, no platform designed to make speakers feel small. Everyone was equal. Everyone had a voice. Park found his seat in the human section and sat down next to General Choi Hyun. The old soldier looked tired but happy. He had spent the last 2 years building the Alliance Military Academy, training officers from every species in the arts of war and peace. How does it feel? Choi asked. Park thought about it. Strange, he admitted. Good strange. I never thought I would see this. Neither did I, Choi said. But here we are. On the far side of the hall, Director Lee Eun-bi sat with her team, Her intelligence network had evolved into something new. The Alliance Early Warning System. Its purpose was not to spy, but to protect. To watch for threats against any member world, to ensure that no young species would be exploited the way humanity had been. Lee caught Park's eye across the crowd and nodded slightly. A simple acknowledgement between old warriors. Near the front, Captain Han De-ho. Admiral Han De-ho now stood with his crew. His flagship still flew the Earth flag on its bridge, but beside it now flew 47 other banners, one for each member world. He had insisted on it. "We fight together," he had said when questioned about the flags. "We should fly together." The hall fell silent as a single figure walked to the speaking platform at the center. Kim Yuna looked older than she had 2 years ago. The weight of her work showed in the lines around her eyes, but her back was straight and her voice was strong. She had been elected to lead the Alliance's diplomatic council, not because she was human, but because everyone trusted her. She had proven herself again and again, negotiating treaties, resolving disputes, building bridges between species that had hated each other for centuries. "Delegates of the Human Alliance," she began. 2 years ago, I stood before another assembly. An assembly that called us primitive, that called us contamination, that laughed at our hope for equality." She paused, looking around the hall. Thousands of faces watched her. Thousands of beings who had come together despite their differences. "Today, I stand before you. An assembly that calls each other friends, that builds instead of destroys, that chooses hope over hatred." She smiled. It was a rare thing, that smile. Those who knew her understood what it meant. "We have not built this alliance because humanity is special. We have built it because we all share something. Every species here knows what it feels like to be dismissed, to be ignored, to be told that you do not matter, and we have all made the same choice, to prove them wrong." She touched a control, and an image appeared above the hall. A planet with blue oceans and green continents. Earth. 60 years ago, humans looked up at the stars and dreamed of finding friends. We found the Council instead. We found arrogance. We found cruelty. We found beings who believed that power gave them the right to abuse those weaker than themselves. She changed the image. Now it showed First Light Station, with ships from dozens of species floating nearby. "Today, we have found what we were looking for. Not power over others, not revenge against those who hurt us, but partnership, cooperation, the chance to build something better than what came before." Her voice grew stronger, filling the hall. "This is the promise of the Human Alliance. We will never abandon our friends. We will never exploit those who trust us. We will never forget what it feels like to be the ones asking for help. And when new species reach the stars, they will find us waiting. Not to laugh at them, not to use them, but to welcome them as equals." She looked directly at the human section. At Park and Choi and all the others who had made this possible. We were told we were nothing. We were told we would never matter. They were wrong. And today, we prove it. Not with weapons, not with force, but with this hall, full of beings who chose to stand together. She raised her hand. "To the Human Alliance, may we always remember where we came from, and may we always strive to be better than those who tried to keep us down." The hall erupted in cheering. Thousands of voices from dozens of species, united in a single moment of joy. Far away, in a small transport ship drifting through unclaimed space, High Arbiter Velen watched the broadcast alone. He had been stripped of his position 8 months after the Night of Broken Chains. His crimes exposed by the Archive. His allies had abandoned him. His species had exiled him. Now he traveled from port to port, surviving on charity, forgotten by a galaxy that had once feared his name. The screen showed Kim Yuna finishing her speech. The same woman he had dismissed without thought. The same woman he had tried to humiliate in front of 800 species. She was smiling. The delegates were cheering. The Alliance banner rose behind her, and the hall erupted in applause. Velen watched for a long time. He remembered the Grand Chamber. He remembered the laughter. He remembered how certain he had been that humans would never amount to anything. He had been wrong about everything. He had assumed that because humans were young, they were weak. He had assumed that because they accepted insults, They had no pride. He had assumed that because they did not fight back immediately, they could not fight back at all. He had never considered the possibility that they were simply patient, that they were waiting, that every smile and bow and acceptance of cruelty was part of a plan that had been decades in the making. The broadcast showed the delegates beginning to mingle. Humans and aliens sharing conversations, sharing food, sharing laughter. A new civilization being born from the ashes of the old. Velon turned off the screen. He sat in the darkness of his small cabin, alone with his thoughts. Finally, he whispered words that no one would ever hear. We should have listened, but it was too late for regret. The galaxy had moved on. The Council was breaking apart. And humanity, the species that Velon had called contamination, was leading a new age of cooperation and hope. Outside the transport's window, the stars burned bright and endless. Somewhere among them, on a station built by many hands, the future was beginning, and humanity was finally home.